pool, which is done with our AI algorithm based on training models and then also statistical like data on how these chemicals interact with each other. The next. And then just this is just a quick little snapshot what it looks like. This is the inside of our box. It has a bunch of testing reagents, 12 to be exact, with pumps that pump them into a reaction chamber. Here there's water. It drops a little bit of the solution into it, mixes it up, uses a colorimetric sensor to see the reading, sends it to the app, which then would show you, for example, on this one that your pool needs attention. You would click the fix pool chemistry button, and then we would tell you exactly how much of each chemical you need to add to balance your pool. And then next. And then, so this is just a little bit about like the clean kind of aspect of our product as well. So chlorine obviously is not good for the environment. Excess chlorine can be avoided with our product. We estimate that we can actually cut down chlorine usage by 50% since people are often, they don't know what they're doing. They're just pouring chlorine, hoping their pool stays clear. When in reality, our product can actually create like this level of resistance to your pool where it's more resistant to change of the heat, to water, to like rain and all this kind of stuff. So we're aiming to kind of not only make it easier to manage your pool, but lessen the amount of chemicals you need to do, which would also lower like the transportation of chemicals. You don't have to go to the pool store as much. We can deliver them right to your door because we know exactly what your chemical levels are. So that's one aspect. And then next, and then the other one is like how we save water. So let's say your pool becomes filled with algae or you add way too much acid. There's not really a way to fix that other than either shocking your pool, which is a bunch of harmful chemicals, or you drain it. Most pools are about 15,000 gallons, so people are draining pools a lot more than they should because they don't know how to fix it. 15,000 gallons is a lot of water to waste. So with our box, we're trying to aim to reduce the amount of water people are wasting by them not needing to go through that process. And there's 10.4 million pools in America that are residential, so it's a huge market for this kind of product. And then next, and then kind of like the final one, which is a little less applicable, but like it is good for your like your skin. Too much chlorine or too much acid is why we get red eyes when we swim. It's because the urine and the chlorine mixing, your skin gets like sensitive. If you have sensitive skin, it like really makes you itch, it burns. And then also it helps the equipment last longer. Like there's not really when your equipment breaks, they don't really replace it. They don't fix it. They want you to replace it, which creates a lot of waste since these things are pretty big, such as the filters and all that. So we're trying to just like, make it easier for people to manage your pool and not have to go through these expensive and harmful to the environment processes. And then that's all the slides I had. So
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on this. And one thing that I kind of recognized in it, so you won the Energy and Sustainability Prize at the UC Davis Big Bang competition under the Mike and Renee Child Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, which is a pillar in our area. You won the Energy and Sustainability Prize. And one thing that we've, at least at CleanStart, that we've pushed with companies when we tell them to go pitch is make a pitch that is to the prize and to the judges.
right.
And often that's like, hey, there's some other good competitions in the region where it's like, you don't go and sell what you're trying to sell to investors. You go and try to sell, I guess, to what is in the prize. And kind of by looking at it, because it's pool equipment, and you highlighted sustainability and environmentalism in there. How did you approach, changing your pitch to make sure that it matched the audience that you were pitching to?
Yeah, so I mean, this was our sixth pitch competition of that semester, kind of.
Oh, so
So
this you're a veteran then, I guess.
yeah, so like we actually we got second place at Kings Capitalize with the Kings. I've been to Minnesota to pitch at like a national undergrad one, and I kind of just learned from those the strategies for each one. So UC Davis, we did demo day last year, so we weren't part of this cohort of Plasma, and we realized that we were way too analytical with data and showing our processing power and all that, and it's like no one cares about that realistically. So we learned how to switch to the kind of audience. So I went about UC Davis's Big Bang pitch to be more kind of interactive and showing how we act, like how we do it. Because if you don't have a pool, it's really hard to connect as a judge with a pool
Mm.
product if you don't have a pool. So what I did is I brought the actual 1940s testing kit from Taylor. I bought one off eBay. I passed it around. I was like, this is the same thing we use today. I brought the box. I did a live demo. I work with like we have a kind of mascot at Splash called Pool Pete. He's kind of who I use to walk along the whole pitch process. So, Pool Pete is a person who has struggles with his pool, and this is how we help him. So I just really try to build that connection and tailor it because I know UC Davis is about innovation and engineering and all those kind of aspects versus King's Capitalized, which might be more about financials. So we made sure to really just highlight the technology we've done, like the things we've learned, customer. I know Big Bang, we had to talk to a lot of customers throughout all the phases. They had, I think for the last one, it was like they wanted 20 customer calls and interviews. So we really compiled the slides that showed this is what our customers are saying, this is what they need, and this is how we're going to solve it.
So if you were to put your two presentations next to each other, what percent do you think would overlap versus what percent was, I guess, completely separate content? Like how different did you make these pitches?
So I would say they're not really So the way I do it is I just put all the slides I don't use when I switch them out in the appendix. So I just
Mhm.
appendicize different ones based on the competition because it's not only the judges, it's also the time. Some pitches are 5 minutes, 7, 10. And so I'll have more time to tell a story, more time to do this. Like for Big Bang, at least, I appendicize a lot more of the projections, the financials, and all that. And I made sure to show more about the technology, more about like how we're going to actually get to market, like the local things we've done since we have connections with local people. I wanted to really highlight how we're intertwined in this Davis community. Like we've actually done 150 in-person like interviews in Davis with pool owners. Like we knocked on doors every Friday for about 4 months.
So
Like
Gary, did you get a knock?
huh?
Gary Simon, who's on the call here,
Oh,
has a pool in Davis. So I was curious if he got a knock.
we get you?
You should come out. I've got 30,000 gallons, but I never drained it
Yeah,
today.
maybe we'll have to redo our knocking. Yeah, but we just use Google Maps for that. And so like we actually, I think we knocked on the UC Davis chair of chemistry's house, and his wife answered the door, and she was all for it. So like it's crazy that people we've met, like I think it was, yeah, like we've met some, like I remember this one lady, she's lived in Davis since it was built. She's like, I remember when there was one street in Davis. And so it's like all these things, it's I think we really just wanted to highlight our story in Davis and tailor it more towards Davis versus when we went to Minneapolis and it's 20 degrees outside and no one has a pool and
Yeah,
we're just
right.
here's the money. Look at the money. I get you don't understand what pool stuff is, but like look at how we're doing the money. So you really just have to adapt. And I like to look at the judges beforehand and kind of see what industries, sectors, what they're like, and you just try to tailor it. And I don't delete slides, I put them in the appendix. So you never know what question you might get. And if there's a question that you have a slide for, that's always something good.
Yeah.
But so kind of I guess the core of it of the story with your mascot there is probably the same, but then like
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
supporting of
Pool
like
stays, pool
getting
Pete
people
stays.
engaged, it will be different, and you'll have the backup cards
Right.
for when someone says, when the judge you thought was going to be interested in technology says, I really want to see your financials. So you can go and click to that slide there too. So which I think is important because everyone focuses on like they got 10 slides to do this in, but that's a starting point.
Yeah, tip on
I've
that
seen
is
mini decks like yours where they got their 10 pitch slides for their 10-minute pitch and then 30 or so other appendix ones that they will go to if you ask a question because
yeah,
that's
I
what
kind
they're
of
for.
actually one thing I do that I recommend is I purposely leave out stuff in my pitch that I know people are going to ask. So there's
Mhm.
always a question I leave out. When I go through like how it works, I'm very brief on how it works. I don't want to tell you like I don't usually include the slide of what it looks like. I just say you install it next to your pool pump and measures chemicals. And then I 100% of the time get the question, how does it measure chemicals? Oh, let me show you my slide in the appendix because you get that 10 slide limit, but you can work around it by making like structuring it so people ask the questions you want to ask. Or like on our competition slide, I say we're better than I only spend 15 seconds on that slide. It's a big old graph which shows we're the best. And I say we bring the highest level of peace of mind. Now I don't explain what peace of mind is at all. And that's because I have a table in my appendix with like 10 different ways that we're better and bring peace of mind. And I always will get, so what is peace of mind? How are you better? I'm like, oh, let me show you this table. So that's something that I learned that one of my advisors actually told me and helped me work through. That's really been helpful because a lot of time, like you said, you get that 10 lit slide limit. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to show everything you want to do in those 10 slides. So if you can be prepared to have appendix slides and structure your pitch to have those questions asked, it's really helpful.
And like I hear you're telling a story with your pitch, right? You're like, I do this so that they think about it, and then I ask a question and I drop it on them. I know there's a couple books that's like how you kind of get them to that excitement and then drop the knowledge on them. How does so you made a mascot, which Some people think mascots are childish, but they also help you tell a story. How did you come up with a mascot that was useful for telling a story and not maybe, a distraction like the Phillies mascot might be, or
Right,
that?
so I say mascot, but it's really just a picture of a middle-aged man on his computer with his feet in the pool. It's not a real mascot. It's our persona, I should have
Oh,
said.
so it's
Maybe
for it's for storytelling,
yeah,
right?
it's a persona. So what we
Yeah.
did is when I get a lot of good feedback on this is we looked at those 150 like interviews and I was like, let me pick three things that are in common that are like aligned with our central customer. So like our three traits that describe Pool Pete are that he owns his own pool, he's busy with work, and that he manages the chemicals himself. So those three things kind of embrace what our ideal customer is. Since he's busy, he doesn't have time to spend like measuring his pool hours a week. And so he goes to work for he forgets to manage his pool for a month and he finally has his weekend off where he can go relax. His pool's all dirty. That's a bummer. Or he thinks managing the chemicals is gonna be easy, but next thing you know, he puts way too much chlorine and it damages his equipment and plaster. So I kind of the way we did it is we did it based on our interviews. We didn't just make up a persona. This is just kind of like a marketing persona that I use to help people who don't have a pool understand it because then they can see Pool Pete struggles that they can understand because if you don't have a pool you don't understand what at all. So our specific really neat like I we struggled. The reason we didn't win a lot of pitches in the beginning is because no what like one judge had a pool, he was super into it, but the other four had no idea what we were talking about. And I only started seeing success for our pitches is when I brought in that persona because it was able to connect with people. So that's how we kind of created it is based off those interviews.
So people go, they go, I'm busy. I want to relax.
Yep.
And sometimes being busy gets in the way of me relaxing. And there's nothing more frustrating than, uh, I'll use an example. I've got a bar in my house if I'm out of whiskey and I didn't know what was going to happen because I forgot to pick it up. Or, I had a friend come over that had some and now I can't make an old fashioned. And I now have to go to the store, which I mean, it might not seem like a big thing, but when you're ready to relax,
All right, yeah,
that's an issue.
it
You're
ruins it.
ready to relax. You've discharged your duties and you're ready. I can see how people like would really, really relate to that. Now, you're kind of making this off of your potential customers. You're going out there interviewing 150 people in Davis. Um, did any of them say, I want to join your company or participate?
Yeah, so this was honestly this was a little more early phase. So right now we actually we're getting on face to face with Gary May in August with his podcast as well. So they do a little video shoot. So we cranked out our first working prototype. So all these interviews were kind of when we were not as far down the road. So we didn't like sell per se. We were doing surveys to kind of figure out how to sell. And I think we got like 23, 25, something like that beta testers. So we have their email their email address, their name and their real address. And we send out like a newsletter every once in a while with some of our success and stuff. So in all honesty, we didn't get a paying customer, but we saw it as more as a way to learn what to do. Cause like some people would tell us things that changed the way we made our product because we didn't think about that. And that's how I kind of saw it as like there's I think the real reason our product is the way it is right now is fully from talking to people who know more about it than us and us going into it with an open mind for learning versus telling them this is what we're doing. We're asking, here's what we think we're doing. Does this make sense to you? And I think one of the biggest innovations we've ever had was when I went to a pool store, like a mom and pop place that sells chlorine and pumps and stuff. And I showed him my product and I asked him, how do you think we could get this to work easier? And he told us about how every pool pump has two drain plugs on them and they're universal. And that's why we're now creating a universal drain plug that can draw water from the pump versus having to cut a pipe or have it in. And I would have never thought about that or known about it if it wasn't for him telling me that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
I was also thinking more about you go into you're not only finding customers, but you might find someone who's like, I want to put money into this as an investor, or as I want to be your advisor. You came across the head of the chemistry department who, or his wife, who was super excited about it. Um, were you able to build your network or interest in other ways besides just potential
Yeah.
customers through that? I mean, you're going through Davis. There's people with pools. There's a high
Mhm.
chance that some of them are qualified investors.
Yeah, I would say we we were a little early. We weren't really looking for I don't think we were ready at the time for investment since we were so far out from MVP. But I think the most notable person we found is we did a survey, one of our last surveys of like our little survey push, and he's a software kind of guy, and he now works for us, and he's one of our best engine like software engineers, and he's great. He does amazing, and he we found him because he said, "This is really cool. I want to join this startup. Do you guys need me?" And so that was like the coolest. I think that was probably the coolest one we got. Maybe it wasn't an investor, but he is probably, other than our lead, our best software hire since the startup. So
That's what I was thinking. Is I feel like, it sounds like if you go out there with an open mind,
right.
trying to engage people on it, you never know, you might find a customer, you might find an employee, you might find an investor.
Yep.
And until you do 100, 150 of them, if you did 20 of them, you might not have found any of those people.
No, yeah, probably not.
So more customer discovery, more product market fit.
Yeah.
So how did Big Bang, I guess, you've done a lot of pitches before. How did Big Bang help move you along or give you attention that you might not otherwise have had?
Yeah, so I mean, Big Bang kind of made us go back to our survey days. So we kind of did a lot of them early in or late 2024, and we kind of focused on different things. It was my last semester of school. I was focused on five other pitch competitions, going doing so like we kind of stopped talking to customers, and Big Bang kind of forced us to go back and re-talk to these customers, which is something that did help us and like just make sure that we are still on the right track and not just in that kind of dilemma where we think we're doing what the customer wants, but it really isn't what the customer wants. So like I think that was an aspect. I mean, also it was our biggest prize money check, which since our product is a hardware product, it is expensive to test these and build units. And that was our biggest hurdle was the financial aspect. So it helped there. And then I mean, like stuff like this, I mean, wouldn't have happened without Big Bang. We got into the Inventopia with
Okay,
so we got a connection with that, and so now we actually are moved in there, and that's where we're building our prototypes now, which
cool.
again, Big Bang connection. So I think a Big Bang was just it was amazing to see how many local like business owners and people who are passionate for students doing startups were there and like willing to just talk to us and give us information, help us out. So I mean, honestly, I think out of all the competitions, this one probably gave us the most after the check. Like check aside, Big Bang definitely offered us the most insight to stuff. And then yeah, I think it was really good to get like Inventopia was huge for us. I
Tim
it's
Keller does great work out of there. Did we lose you?
what was it?
I say Tim Keller does great work out of
I know
Inventopia.
he's like really smart with hardware too.
Oh yeah.
So he kind of changed our design. That box is kind of old. We have a new kind of design where we're using a carousel with syringes to like be more accurate in how much we dose. And that was fully like him walking through with our engineers, and we're just like, wow, like this guy, he's great. He's really great.
So you have a product that's part, I'm assuming you're not going to install them, but you'll be selling it to people that are installing them. But a
So
lot of your things was end user customer kind of B2C discovery.
right.
And you mentioned that you did talk to, the chemical store, and that was a little bit more of the B2B kind of discovery. Was there any other kind of, I guess, how much work did you do in, I guess, the B2B space to figure out, your distribution or your channels on this?
Right. So actually, when we were in Plasma, our initial idea was B2B. We wanted to sell to pool service companies so they could better serve their clients and monitor their pools real time so they don't have to go out if it wasn't dirty and all that. We found it was actually, we just couldn't come to a value proposition that worked for both of us since they're a low cap. They don't make as much money as you think. Like there's a lot of overhead and stuff, and it just wasn't justifiable for them to spend the amount of money we would need to be profitable for them to monitor it. So then we had to pivot, and then that's how we pivot. Excuse me, sorry. That's how we pivoted to the B2C. Um, and technically, we will be installing the first like 10 to 50 just to kind of show people how it's done. But the product with the drain plug accessory that I discussed earlier should be able to be installed by anyone in 5 minutes. So it actually will be like all the other products out there that are in line require a pool guy to come out, cut your pipe, and install it into the pipe, and then reseal the pipe. And that was initially our idea, but we knew just down the line that that would be such a big hurdle, and it would probably never be a product that you could sell on Amazon if you have to have someone come do it for you. So we really focus on trying to make it as easy to install as possible. So that was kind of like that. And I think we just went to a lot of conventions. We went to home shows like the Sacramento Home and Garden Expo, I think is what it's called. And over there, we went to there. We just like, I think it really comes down to the more people you talk to, the more you learn. Because when you're doing a startup, or at least us, we weren't that knowledgeable about the industry. And there's so many people who've been doing pool stuff for 30, 40 years that love to see young people passionate about the industry that they've been in that has almost no innovation. And they will just pour out. You can ask three questions and you'll be there for 30 minutes and they will just talk and talk. And as long as you're absorbing and just allowing that conversation to flow, you can learn so much from it.
So were there two of you doing these interviews, I hope? One of you to write, one to ask
Yes.
questions?
So usually, yeah, we would for the 150 it was actually four. We would split up into groups of two so we could hit more houses, and we'd just come back, drive. One of us would write it down. A lot of the times what I do is if I'm solo interviewing, I'll actually just pull out my phone in front of them and start writing on my notes. And I don't think that's it, it actually works a lot better than most people think because it shows that not only are you interested in them, but like you're interested in what they're passionate about and what they're saying. And so that's another way that I like to do my interviews is I'll write it down as they're speaking just to like make sure I'm getting everything. If I have a question, I'll be like, did you say that? What did you mean by that? Can you explain that? And that's a way that I really and I compile it and then I talk with our team every week when our meeting and we just kind of build our knowledge from there.
I know I used that in college and still today, where writing it as you hear it. So it's like you get it verbally, and then you get it also kind of physically memorized in there. So it sounds like you have a pretty good team that works
Oh
well
yeah.
together.
Yeah.
How did you build your team?
Oh, so it's kind of a crazy story. So,
Get down
um,
for crazy stories.
when I was so I first year of UC Davis for me was COVID year, so I was all online. I moved here, lived at the Green for 2 quarters, realized I wanted to go to Sac State, so I moved out. I moved in the house, and then I needed roommates, so I posted on Facebook, and this guy named Rain, he was like, "Oh, I do you have a garage? I need to park my car in the garage. If you have a garage, I'll move in." I'm like, "I got a garage, let's move in." And so he moved in. He's an electrical engineer master's student, and we never even saw each other for the first 4 months because we would be busy doing our own stuff. And eventually we just kept coming home at like 2 in the morning together, and we're like, wait, we're actually really similar in our business mind because we're getting home at 2 a.m. instead of going to the bars and parties, and we're just like actually, and so we would just talk and talk, and we realized that oh, okay, we're onto something. And then he's kind of the mastermind behind the team. He put a bunch of engineers together because he knew some software guys and then he knew some hardware guys. And then he put me as the lead of business because I was pretty much the business guy. And then we all combined, we had like 10 originally. It was eight mechanical engineers, or no, electrical engineers, which is way too many. So we cut down on the electrical engineers, brought in more software, and that's kind of where we are. But 6 out of 8 of us have been friends for more than 3 years. So we snowboard together, we go camping together, and our team is something I would say is so unique with us. And like if this startup didn't work, I don't see a world where we wouldn't try another one with the same team. So it's like we just got I would give it all credit to Rain for putting us together, and then we just from there we just bonded and stuff. And four of them actually live in the same house down the street from me right now. So it's just we're just all really close.
I kind of chuckle because Brandon Brown, who has Grin, the billion-dollar company up there in Folsom, he built his team snowboarding.
Yep.
He has
Oh, that's
historically built his
five.
team snowboarding. So, maybe going down a mountain is the best way, or when you have time to talk on the lift is the best place to find people on building your company. Now, one thing I noticed that I caught there, you talked about getting something that anyone can install. And one place that I've seen, at least I've seen a lot of things that were these really high tech or like future tech sort of stuff that have become more something that anyone could do, but companies have been successful making it so it's like, okay, instead of trying to, I have you in the waiting room, by the way. Did you have another device?
Me?
I'm looking in the waiting room and it says you're in the, or no, Michael Singala. That's okay.
That's my dad.
All right, I'll let him in.
Yeah.
Um, I saw Singala and I'm like,
Yeah,
hey,
that's my dad.
yeah, all right. Is where there's a tech like where it's someone who's not steeped in the tech, but they're steeped in the like how someone wants to buy this and install it. And I'm thinking of some battery companies that are local that are focusing more on, hey, how can someone buy this at Costco and then go install it on their own, as opposed to get a bunch of engineering and permits and dig it and cut out a wall. Um, so how much effort has actually been that you've put into and making it, I guess, easier to install so someone, like you said, could buy it on Amazon? And what has been the response to that?
Yeah, so the biggest effort we made, which when we were building our product, I knew this was going to be a major like barrier to entry, and I we just ignored it in the beginning, and it was how we're going to install this thing, right? Like our original idea was cutting the pipe, then we were like maybe we can create a custom lid for the pump filter. That's still like really not feasible. And then from those customer talks is when we found out about the drain plug thing. And to make it like really easy, what we're working on right now actually is creating step-by-step guides. So like I don't know, an Apple box, when you open the Apple box, it's like a
Mhm.
gift. So you keep the box for some reason, even though you have a box from your iPhone 7 on your shelf for some reason. So we're really like I'm a marketing major, so I'm really diving into how to make the product like feel luxurious and then also super easy to use when you open it. You just like you're excited to install it and not like a hassle. And I think one of the main ways we're gonna do that is a lot of QR codes that link to like really energetic and short, because the attention span's short nowadays, and simple, concise like videos. Like, here's what you do. You just turn this one knob, you unscrew this, you screw it in, and then maybe you press next and it goes on next. So we're not gonna be doing paper instructions, I don't think. I mean, we'll have some, but we're really gonna focus on that video aspect so people are able to see and follow along and make it really easy. I think even in some of our videos, we might even have like a kid doing it to show that even a 10-year-old is able to install our product, you know? So I kind of
It's
just
gonna feel really bad if you get frustrated installing it.
maybe, yeah, maybe I'm the guy that's the kid. Yeah, and that's a good point. But
This child can do it. What's wrong with you?
That's
Uh,
right. Well, I point out in
Gary.
the chat that Heather Huggy
oh,
from Chico Start is inviting you to present at their Growtech Fest in November. So be sure you grab the
yeah, I will
invitation there.
check that.
That's another pitch fest.
Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Heather. Yeah, I
And
was.
Chico has a lot of pools.
Yeah.
Oh,
Chico has a lot of pools.
We have a
awesome.
lot of rules.
Pools.
Oh, pools. I'm like,
Pools.
Chico has no
Yeah. Most of my family in Chico has pools. So
Yeah, I like Chico. My best friend, she went to Chico State. I spent a lot of weeks there, so
they get
Yeah.
in at 2 a.m. as well.
Well, the other advantage of Growtech Fest is it's held at the Sierra Pacific Brewery in their auditorium. And
oh yeah, yeah,
they've got a
I've been
big
there.
bar off to the side, so it leads to some interesting conversations.
That it does. It's a good place to meet people and connect there. It's I believe this November 6th,
Yeah, 6th and 7th.
6th and 7th. All right. Yeah. So go up there, spend the night in a place with a pool, and then go back the next day. Um, so you have more. So what are the next steps for you growing in the region?
Yeah, so right now, our next step is to build 10 units. So we have that one prototype unit, which isn't capable of the drain plug technology because we're still working on that.
Hmm.
So we're going to test pretty much every aspect of our box except the drain plug part, and for about a month, make sure it all works. And then we're going to go to Inventopia and start building out our 10 with the drain plug. We're going to give out about five to, like one to our advisor, two to the companies that we have like LOIs with to their owners. And then we have two like really passionate customers that we've seen that email us, and we're going to give it to them as well. Those five, we're going to really just kind of get testimonial feedback, like reviews, like tell us what you like, what you really don't, all that kind of stuff for about 2 weeks, and then we plan to start selling them. We're gonna sell the next five, and then after that, I think is our goal is to go from 10 to 100 to 1,000. So once those first 10 are kind of working, I think it's just going to be a lot of sales, door-to-door sales, online marketing stuff. Once we get to 100, I think is when we want to go try to get funding, because we can show that we have 100 units in Sacramento area in a niche market that we're dominating, where we had Big Bang, we have Kings Capitalized, like we've been on the news, we Carlson Center, like both presidents of the universities in this area have recognized us on their social media platforms. And so it's like we really want to show that we are dominating this area. And so once we get to those 100 units, we want to go to get venture capital money so we can then get to 1,000 and then wherever that takes us. But our first step is to really get to 10. And then honestly, we'll figure it out and then see how to get to 100. But like 10 right now is what we're looking at. We don't want to look too big. We want to really make sure we nail these first 10.
So you mentioned social media and the people that have kind of recognized the Presidency University on social media. But I'm going to be honest with you. Um, I think most people with pools don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, I mean,
And is there an influencer out there that focuses on pools?
yeah, that we found a few of them. I
Okay.
can't name them on the top of my head, but I do. When
Have
my
you been looking
subscriber,
into how to reach out to them?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just curious because I mean, it seems like there's probably people like sometimes I watch, like pressure spraying porn,
yeah, yeah,
which is where it's like there's a dirty sidewalk and they pressure wash it.
right,
And it's, I'm imagining that there's probably something like that for pools.
Yeah.
yeah.
Go go
There's a few channels. Yeah.
go
Yeah.
find out
And,
where Mark Spitz is these days. He grew up in Carmichael. He's an Olympic swimming champion.
Okay.
I think more people would probably be interested in what, Summer Sanders?
Yeah. Okay. Summer Sanders.
She's got a gold medal and grew up out here too.
All
Um,
right. Pick her.
yeah.
You're you're also about the,
I think people who are at the Growth Factory probably have a connection to her because she grew up out there in the Roseville Granite Bay area
Yeah, we
and
did the
was
pitch
pretty
there.
involved.
So,
So,
so
there's a
yeah, I
there,
know.
Oregon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a good point. I think at least for these first 100, I think honestly our main focus is going to be door to door because I think that's where we see our most success. And
yeah.
we
Well,
could try some social too, but I do know that there's a lot of there are some pool influencer stuff, and I have a list, but we just want to make sure like when we do go to that level that our product is practically flawless. Like some
Yeah.
stuff might break in that first 100, and I would hate to like get an order of 1,000 because we did a social media thing and we realized, oh wait, this actually we have a major thing we need to fix. So I think for the short term, we're trying to focus just really on these door to door sales and finding those first 1% of innovator customers who are willing to work with the kinks of technology and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's also the risk of, an influencer who takes your technology, doesn't like it,
yes.
Right.
and broadcasts that out because you weren't ready.
Yeah.
Hmm.
One of the things that made Tesla really successful is they had early adopters who gave them direct feedback instead of going and saying, here's this huge issue with it. They went and said like, hey, here's an issue. Can you fix it?
Yeah. No,
Uh,
that's very important because you're in the way you're describing it, you're about to take a very important step and a dangerous step.
Right.
That's getting lots of customers. Because if you don't serve them well, um, that turns around and backfires on you. One bad comment is going to kill 1,000 good comments.
Mhm.
So
I
think
think we
about
sort by
setting
worst comment first when we look at stuff.
think
Uh,
about setting somebody up on your team as your chief customer service representative, so they're on it. They don't you don't want to let anything really bad get out there on the social media.
and they say number one thing that kills a company is they don't find a customer. The number two thing that kills the company is they find too many customers at one that they can't scale.
Yeah.
Right.
So it sounds like you're going about it really smart. It sounds like you have a good team of advisors. So it sounds like we say there's the three T's that make you successful: technology, traction, and team. Team being the first, traction being the second, technology being the last. Sounds like you got a good team, probably some good advisors there. You
Yep.
door to door, you've gotten some traction, and you're kind of doing it really smart. What are things about about your company that keep you up at night?
Um, really is just I guess in the last few months it was the technology actually coming to light, like being a real thing. Before
Mhm.
then, it was probably money, like how are we gonna fund this? Which thankfully to all these competitions is no longer a stressor. It keeps me up at night. But I think that making sure the technology was actually built and that we will be able to sell it. And I think probably in the future, are gonna be the customers is definitely gonna keep me up. Is like how it like is this box working tonight when I go to sleep? Am I gonna wake up to an email that the pool pump broke and now I got to go figure out how we're going to fix this person's whole pool that flooded their backyard. So that's going to be definitely a big one later on is just does the product actually is it working and is it doing what it's supposed to be doing?
You promise people all these things, and as someone who wants to be probably true to their word, I guess that would keep you up at night. So we've got, been talking here for a bit. Any major takeaways from going through pitch competitions that you would be like, hey, you're a startup, you're going through these, here's what you really need to know about going and doing pitch competitions? Because it seems like there's another company, Box Power, that is growing out in Grass Valley, and their start's very remarkably similar to yours, where it was pitch competitions that kept them alive for the first couple of years.
Mhm.
So with people starting to look at that more and more, maybe a cooling market, what are some advice that you would give them to pitch competitions outside of stay out of the ones you're in?
Well, I think honestly, it's no one cares about the technology. It hurts to say, but no one cares how you're measuring your pool. Like no one cares that we use pumps that do these tubes and all. It doesn't matter. Like the judges are there. Most of the time, they're not going to be from your industry. They've never heard of like for us a real one is not every judge like it fully depends. If a judge has a pool, it changes it. If it doesn't, it's a lot more work. So they don't care about the technology. It's more about like showing that you know and you're passionate and that you're able to like answer your questions. Um, I know a lot of people get stage fright and stuff like that, and some CEOs they want to be the one who's pitching. They want to be there, but they might not be the best one who's like customer centric and customer facing, you know. So I think it's choosing the person who's able to really tell the story. Not being overly technical and I don't know, it's you just want to be personal. The judges can see like I think being comfortable is a very nice, like a very positive thing. If you're super stressed and trying to remember your script word for word for 5 minutes, you're not going to do as well as you want to do. Like I make my slides, like I make the full slides. So in my head, I'm creating my pitch as I'm making the slides. So I'm like, okay, I want to go in this order and talk to these things. So let me structure my slides like this so I can flow through it like a book. So I just focus on the flow. I practice a lot. Um, One thing I always try to recommend is like the more you talk about it, the easier it is. Like you might not be pitching to someone who asks about your product, but you being able to explain for 5 minutes and talk about it will help you on your pitch because then those are things that you're just saying and saying and saying. Like I can do a 60-second elevator pitch 24/7, no matter to who, any time of the day. And like that is from my pitch and all that. So I just say, like, it's not about how pretty the slides are. It's not about how cool you guys are doing. It's just is like show your product, show why, like it's an emotion thing. People want to show what it makes someone feel, not like what it does. Don't sell features, sell like emotion and like how it changes their lives. So I think that's something I struggle with was wanting to be overly technical, wanting to showing all these numbers that, you know, are probably made up anyways because no one knows their 4-year revenue projection when they don't have a sale. Like, I don't know, just focusing on like connecting and making the audience engage and wanting to like they don't wanting to like invest in you, your product, but also you because they like you as a person and like your drive, your confidence and all that. Like they can tell. So I would say just a mix of those things.
So I think, the three P's of a perfect pitch: practice, practice, practice. It sounds kind of like there. And the one thing that I really appreciate that you said from that is, you're kind of always sharing your company and pitching it to people, not maybe in a pitch form, but you're having a normal conversation with them.
Hmm.
You're not, you're explaining to them why you're passionate. And then when you go in front of the judges, that part's become natural.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they really love it. So, I mean, that's a I think a great lesson for people to take away. Practicing, don't focus on the numbers as much as how much it changes lives. Do we have any questions from the people that have that joined the Zoom at least? All right. With that, I'm gonna move on to wrap it up and thank you for joining us today.
Great
Uh,
job, Gabriel.
yeah, great job.
Yeah.
Round of applause. Wish you the most success that you can have on this. Hopefully, see you up at Grow Tech Fest November 6th in Chico.
Yeah.
And there we go. And thank you for joining us today. And with that, I also want to thank our sponsors, SMUD, Chico Start, Fresno State, Witten Law, Baker Tilly, and River City Bank, along with invite people to join our next perspective, which is from a startup marketing to millions. experience from Derek Porter, who in the past year had a company exit at $1.6 billion. Additionally, later, better use of AI in creating your content. And we have a meetup on September 25th that is going to be really cool around buildings. And with that, thank you for joining us and have a good day. Thank you for attending. Bye.
Thank you.